John Little, or should I call you Little John? Oh wait, never mind. I did that wrong. He didn't bother to do a fucking accent in that movie, so it's John Little, or should I call you Little John? I'm Robin of Locksley. Fucking Kevin Costner. What a fucking joke. All right.
This is off the rails.
I guess we can start.
Sounds good.
It feels
Pardon me.
hold on. It feels weird. I don't have coffee today, but I'm all like, this is fucking Skid Row.
Hey!
I'm gonna have a beer.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah, brother!
All right, let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cranked and Ranked, the show where two blokes, one from the U.S. and one from England, we rank. I don't know where that comes from. That I say England. I think I think it's from Austin Powers because at one point the guy goes, "I'm off to London, England." Anyway, we rank discographies of bands from what we think is the least good to the most good. I mean, that's what a ranking is, right? But the conversation is more important. And just if you're new to this, yes, we go off on a lot of tangents, and it's usually very long-winded. A very nice big discussion about whatever artist we are covering. And as you see on the title, this week it is Skid Row, the classic 80s hard rock band. It's weird to call them an 80s hard rock band because only one of their albums was in the 80s. But, you know.
You could argue that the 80s weren't fully over until about 93, 94 at a push. Like, you know, it's same thing happens with every decade. You get a little bit of runoff in the early parts of a decade. You know, like stylistically, it's not until you get to like the 3 or 4 mark where a decade's identity really becomes cemented.
I think I think you're right. Even though like, you know, the people looking back on history like to rewrite it like, you know, Nirvana came out and overnight everybody lost their jobs, and I'm like, nah, that's not really how it happened.
Yeah.
But, you know,
like maybe airplay, but people were still gigging. They didn't see flannel shirts and immediately think, well, fuck. We can't do this anymore. Like,
no, they still put out albums, and we're going to talk about one of those albums. I think was after Nevermind came out, or maybe it was before. It doesn't matter. We'll get
just before.
Yeah. So yeah, Skid Row. And I'm Old Head, your host as usual, and with me as always, Eddie Sparxx.
I'm up in here. Yes,
he is. He's going to be way up in here, like. He's gonna make your butt hurt. He's gonna be so far in here. Anyway, sorry, I don't really know what that meant.
It's got some backdoor action. Skid marks on the Skid Row.
So yeah, we've decided to just go with the 6 full-length Skid Row albums. Now, there are 2 EPs that are like, you know, brother EPs, and there was supposed to be another one. But just circumstances, we were just like, it's not necessary. Let's do 6. There's 6 full-length albums. Because I feel like with that, we're going to say everything we need to say about Skid Row. And we always start off with where Skid Row came into our lives. And for me, like many, many, many other people, it was MTV. 1989, saw the music video for Youth Gone Wild and 18 in Life, and then I Remember You. And I eventually bought the album on cassette, the first album, I was in 7th grade, so it would have been 1990 when I bought the first album. And I loved it because I was into that whole, you know, Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue thing, and Skid Row kind of fit right in there. They were, I was, at that point I was also really into Anthrax. I was getting into all the shit at the same time, but for some reason the Skid Row album really did it for me. And honestly, even back then, the number one thing for me was Sebastian Bach's vocals. I just remember back then being like, holy shit, is this guy the best singer in any band?
Yeah.
I loved him. I mean, I've been, a fan. I was a fan through the whole, Sebastian Bach era. And then they split up and got back together, and I was absolutely not interested at all, and have remained not interested. And I'm glad that we did this, because I was able to go back and actually listen to all of the albums that they've done without Baz, and I now am confident in my opinion on everything. So I won't give anything away, but the first thing that probably needs to be said for me is that I am a big fan of that first era of Skid Row. I mean, I got the box set with all the vinyl.
Oh, nice.
I have the first album, an original from '89, but it got really annoying trying to find Slave to the Grind, affordably. And I knew that, I don't think not Inhuman Nature, Subhuman Race. Why did I say it? Inhuman Nature. That's something else in my brain. Subhuman Race, I don't think that was ever on vinyl. So I was just like, oh, I'm just going to get this box. It was on sale for pretty cheap on Amazon, and I got it. And all the records sound really good.
Yeah. 90s vinyl is a bitch sometimes, because, vinyl was threatened at the time by the CD format. So,
yeah. So the ones that do exist, it's all like, oh, look, it's a very good quality copy of Slave to the Grind. Oh, it's only $150.
Yeah.
But also I got these motherfuckers right here.
Hey.
Oh, Say Can You Scream on VHS, and the Roadkill one, which the Roadkill one's great because it comes with 3D glasses.
Oh, nice.
Because the video for Psycho Love is in 3D. Hello.
Wow.
I'm gonna wear these for all the rest of the show. But yeah, these are both great because they're kind of like I don't know if you've seen these before, but they're kind of like the Pantera ones, where it's just like on the road debauchery and some music videos and live performances. Yeah. It's like that kind of thing. Anyway,
me likey, love that. Weren't they? Isn't there like? Was that recorded on the same tour that Pantera were doing there? Because I know Skid Row appear.
This one, Roadkill. Because the Oh Say Can You Scream is on their first album tour, and they toured with Pantera on Slave to the Grind.
I was gonna say, because there's like a scene where they're playing baseball together.
Yeah.
In a clip. I can't remember which one it's off. It'll be off of the Cowboys one, right?
No.
Or was it
Vulgar Video? Vulgar Video.
Yeah. Of course, because that's after. What's it called? Yeah.
Which we also did Pantera. So yeah, Skid Row. Where did Skid Row come into your life, sir?
Well, this was a case of, Ugly Kid Joe were playing a show in Exeter. Mm-hmm. And they were supporting Skid Row. So my uncle, who I've mentioned many times before, scored us some tickets.
So this was so that the concert you're explaining sounds like it could be in the early '90s, but it was not.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good show though. There's a whole bootleg of the Ugly Kid Joe gig on YouTube if you want to hear it.
Cool.
But yeah. Skid Row were the other band on the bill, and it was like, oh wow, well, if Skid Row is this band that's like, bearing in mind this is very early in me getting into this kind of music. I was only about like 14, 15, so like
so this would have been them with Johnny Solinger or whatever.
Yeah, who has since passed away, rest in peace.
Oh. I did not know that, actually.
Did you not?
No. Yeah, I didn't know he died.
That sucks. I found out a couple days ago, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. But yeah, I remember seeing Ugly Kid Joe, and it was great. And in order to get, hyped for the other half of the show, I managed to get Skid Row and Slave to the Grind. Um, and I listened to the absolute fuck out of them.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh my God, every single one of these songs bangs.
Yeah.
And it was like, this was before I got into the 80s hair metal thing. I was still very much in my grunge discovery era. So this
All right.
Skid Row really, if you exclude the songs from V-Rock on Vice City, this was really like my hair metal awakening, so to speak, even though, they're on the harder edged end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could argue that the debut is pretty much full blown 80s hair. Like
Yeah.
the Slave to the Grind is where it tends to get a little bit more. Well, they're heavier than that. So long story short,
I think it all blends together because like that's why I rarely use the term hair metal. I just say 80s hard rock because if you don't look at a music video, a lot of those bands just sound like heavy hard rock bands.
yeah.
And then that's what Skid Row sound like. They just didn't tease their hair up. So, it's a difference.
Yeah. It's like bands like if you played me a Cinderella song, I would have thought they'd actually look a lot more like Tesla did, because Tesla were
Yeah.
but of course Cinderella were very glam image wise, but they had a harder edge to them.
Yeah. We did them also a couple years ago. I think we did Cinderella.
Yeah, that was in the pre-video era.
Yep.
So yeah, with that, yeah, it was coming up for a gig, and I wanted to know the songs, and I binge listened their first two albums, and then eventually, somewhere down the line, a friend of mine had a bunch of illegally acquired MP3s, and he put it all on my all on my phone or my iPod at the time.
Yeah.
And he had the rest of the Skid Row albums. And I guess we'll just dive on in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we have 6 full-length albums. Yeah, and as usual, Eddie starts us off. So it's perfect transition. What would you say is the sixth? The sixth, not best. the bottom of the barrel Skid Row album.
Now this is a funny one for me because like I was initially thinking, like I do, I do a scan of other lists to get like a general consensus. Again, not that it influences my opinion, but it gives me a frame of reference for whether or not I'm a ruffle some feathers.
Yeah. Also, sometimes it helps give a different viewpoint on albums, which is really all that we do here. Like, we've never ended an episode where I said, all right, well, those are the opinions for the rest of eternity for everybody. And I'm just like, no, this is our viewpoint on these albums. So I almost feel like it should be, like it should be like Rotten Tomatoes. You take all the rankings and you throw them together and you're like, well, what's the average? We're just one of those. We're one point of view for these rankings.
So after listening to the two of these, I had to go for my number 6. My number 6 is Thick Skin from 2003.
Okay. I can't. So when I was listening to this album, and I kept thinking to myself, I kept just calling it Dick Skin in my head, just because it's a really bad album title. And then I made it better for myself. Just be like, all right, which one am I? I'm still on Dick Skin. All right, cool.
Man, Dick Skin. That's fucking funny.
All right, sorry. Already ruining it. Let's Dick Skin.
Okay, right. Let's dive into this. Let's dive into the Dick Skin. Okay, we've got New Generation, which literally sounds like Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson meets John Bush era Anthrax. And, had this come out 5-6 years earlier, it might have done a little better, but like by this point, this style was already getting played out.
And not to mention the number of old rock bands doing songs about some new generation.
Yeah, it's
like, all right.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the Who did it, and Limp Bizkit did it. You don't.
Well, that's my generation. That's like
Yeah.
that's very different. All right, so go ahead and talk shit about me and my generation.
Don't get me started. You ever seen that episode of South Park where Cartman has to sing the rest of I'm Sailing Away by Styx? Yeah. And he has to sing the whole thing really fast, like, because like if he hears it, he can't not hear the rest of it. I feel the same way about pretty much any Limp Bizkit song. So the moment I start,
so I just gotta go. If only we could fly. Bizkit style.
John Otto.
Take him to the Matthews Bridge.
Yeah, don't, because it'll be 2 hours of that.
But your generation. Oh wait, we already did Limp Bizkit a while ago. And
get the fuck up! Oh
yeah. This song's dedicated to you, Ben Stiller. you are my favorite motherfucker.
There's so many
that's the only reason I want to be in the same room with Ben Stiller at some point. I don't want to meet him. I like Ben Stiller; he's fine. But I just want to yell at him. You are my favorite motherfucker.
Dude, I've really developed a strong love for like it. If there's like a breakdown in a song and stuff's starting to build, I told you this last time, right? That I just yell "chocolate starfish" every now and again. Like even if it's a song that's like not even related to metal, like it could be a Fleetwood Mac song, and I'll just yell "chocolate starfish" just to wind my partner up. But yeah,
we've already been derailed at track 1, but let's get back.
Okay. All right. So what I'm about to say can pretty much sum up many of the tracks on this album. Ghost, post-grungy, kinda upbeat ballady track. Swallow Me, more post-grungy stuff. See, this is the thing where like you guys are real behind the curve right now doing like the post-grunge thing in 2003.
Yeah,
because it was at this point where that became oversaturated too, and it's like, you know, Born a Beggar, full-blown post-grunge central at this point. Thick as the Skin is a heavier track. Thick as the Dick. See You Around is back to the kind of floaty post-grunge thing. Mouth of Voodoo got some like horror vibes, which leads into a bit of a riffer. One Light, I will say, like One Light, I could have seen being a big 90s style ballad, you know, had it come along 5 or 6 years earlier. Mm-hmm. Then you get what I can only describe as a bastardization. You've got I Remember You 2.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is just, to me, came off as a cynical attempt to pop punkify a classic power ballad.
Do you want to know, and I don't want to disparage the dead. I had no idea that he was dead. But I have a theory about that. And it's because, like, if you think about, like, the vocals on the first Skid Row album, the highest and most difficult vocals that Baz does is in I Remember You. So they've now recorded a new version of it where he's singing the entire chorus at a lower octave. Is it Remember Yesterday? It's not high anymore. So I'm like, oh, they just redid that so they could play it that way live so Home Dude could actually sing it. Because he was a really good singer, but I don't think he could have done those kind of things. But
that's the problem, isn't it? When you step into a band that had such a fucking powerhouse on the mic, I mean, the range on Baz, especially back then.
I mean, he obviously he can't sing. Nobody that gets older can sing that well anymore. But I mean, I every time I see some footage of him, I'm still pretty impressed with not only him as a frontman, but him as a vocalist. But we're not. He's not involved in this album. Let's move on.
Yeah. So yeah, so we got here Lamb has a cool Alice in Chains influenced bendy riff. Down from the Underground is another chunky grunger, and Hitting a Wall. That's a good name for a band, that Chunky Grunger.
Chunky Grunger.
Chunky Grunger. And finally you get Hitting a Wall, which is a rockin' grooving closer. Honestly though, like if I want this sound, I'll go to a band that did it like A originally and B a lot better, because like honestly is always kind of, if you compare this with Subhuman Race, right? Subhuman Race was like them heavying it up and being influenced, as far as I can tell, from what was going on, but still sticking to Skid Row
absolutely
at the core. You know, at some points it even sounds a little bit like Saigon Kick to me that album.
Sure.
Whereas this one makes me think they were hearing stuff like Creed and went, we can do that.
On certain tracks, the vocalist almost sounds like he's trying to sound like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Yeah, and it's like that to me. There's a distinct difference between like being influenced by something and trying your hand at emulating it as closely as you can. And this album struck me as that.
Yeah.
So with that, this album to me, while Revolutions Per Minute tends to get the most shit from what I've heard, I found Revolutions Per Minute a bit more entertaining, you know, because you know there were moments in that album where it's like they weren't like smart moments, but they made me laugh or they made me smile, and I got entertainment value out of it.
Sure.
You know, but Thick Skin just to me, Thick Skin just came off as a little bit like, fuck, it's 2003. What's the default setting for a band right now?
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of a thought of we have to find some way to make it back on top again.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, let's try to write some hits. What's a, you know, and you can't fault a band for that, but I mean, at the same time, you can't expect me to really enjoy that kind of an album. But funnily enough, that is not my number 6. If you're done with yours, I can jump off of this.
I'm done with Dick Skin.
All right, hold on, everybody.
Dick Skin has been circumcised.
So, I'll go ahead and preface this by saying that we're doing 6 albums total. And to me, it's like 3 classic, really fucking great albums, and then a giant chasm like the fucking Grand Canyon, and then 3 pretty shitty albums. And I'm being nice because they're not awful. They're just, comparatively speaking, not good.
Yeah.
The worst of which, and I really gave this some thought, and I went back and forth listening to songs and listening to vocal performances and just trying to figure out, like, you know, which one was the worst. And every single time, this one came out on the bottom. From 2022, The Gang's All Here. The newest album, their 6th album, and their first with vocalist Eric Gronwall, who sounds like a diet Sebastian Bach. And the music sounds like diet Skid Row. It's generic vocals, generic lyrics, uninspired lyrics. Everything about this just sounds like hard rock generator music. An AI put together, hey, AI, can you make a Skid Row album? And this is what it would sound like. And the thing that's even more annoying about this is that they announced this new album with this new vocalist, and then they put out a single. I don't remember which one the single was, but I immediately went to listen to it because I'm the first person that says, hey, prove me wrong, make me like this. And it didn't work at all. I thought it was an awful song. It was just it just sounds like a lost group of old dudes who really are unsure of what to do. And they've hired this guy that sure can hit the notes that Sebastian Bach can hit. And sure, he's young and looks like a rocker, but he has none of the character that Sebastian Bach has in his voice. It's just, he's just a dude that can sing, which is fine. Because what I found happened is that for some reason everybody really wanted to try hard to like this album. So I kept getting all of these comments and messages like, you really just got to listen to it, man. It's like really good. And I'm like, no, this is you convincing yourself that it's really good. I know that it's not. And now that I've gone and listened to it a few times, I've confirmed that it's not. It is like, it's just good. It's just good enough for the people that really want to like it, and then they can run with that. So if you're a huge Skid Row fan to the point where you don't care who's singing, then I could totally see that this being an album for you. But it's not just the vocals, which the vocals are fine. He's nowhere near as good as Sebastian Bach, but he can hold his own and he can sing. But even the songs, just, it's like their first 3 albums, they matured as a band. With like not only the kind of songs they were writing, but lyrics they were writing, you could tell that they were maturing. And now this is a band of old dudes that are trying to write stuff like they wrote when they were 18 years old. And the thing that I've found, and this isn't just for like this kind of hard rock music, but very much so, this kind of music, and I'm talking about your Poisons and your Motley Crues and all of these things, that music is best done by young people full of piss and vinegar. I got that from Howard H. Smith, because I was talking about a newer thrash band and how, like, even though there's elements that are just, kind of rehashed and kind of, maybe, done again through a younger lens, I'm just like, but the energy is there that I want. And it's because it's this young energy that for some reason really sells the music, and it feels genuine and unique and honest. And The Gang's All Here does not sound like that at all to me. It really sounds like just trying to recover your heyday without having anything new to add to it, or pushing anything in any way forward aside from saying, hey, we have a new singer and he can sing like Sebastian Bach. Like, that's like the only thing, when everyone fucking just wants them to get back together with Sebastian Bach. And I've said this before, I don't know who the asshole is. Maybe there's many assholes. Maybe Sebastian Bach is a huge prick. I've heard he can be. Maybe it's Snake or Rachel or whoever. Somebody is an asshole as well. And the thing that I don't understand is, like, you guys are older now. Like, bury the hatchet, get back together, cash those fucking checks. Because guess what? I'll be there,
Yeah.
But, I know there's probably a whole lot of that, no, he said my girlfriend was ugly years ago, and I'm never going to forgive him for that. He ate
my enchilada.
Yeah, whatever it is. I'm not trying to minimize whatever they had going on, because they all have their reasons and they're all adults, but I'm just coming at this from a big fan of that early shit. And then I hear this album and everyone's just fine with it. And I'm like, no, don't be fine with it. Like, we need everyone to rally together and not be fine with this. Because maybe that's what they need. They need to put out something and be like, we're back with this great singer. They need the whole world to go, fuck you. And then they need to go, well, maybe we're going to get Baz back in the band. It's like, so, but maybe not. I don't know. But I realize that I am in the minority, because I've heard a whole lot of people say this album's fucking great. And to each their own, as they say, which is a nice way of saying you're wrong. But yeah, The Gang's All Here. It's just, it's not just Skid Row, man. It's like so many bands try to do shit again like they did when they were young, and it's just not. It's almost like, not only that, they need to be young, But maybe for this kind of music, maybe it also needs to be 1989. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it only makes sense coming out of 1989, and maybe that's it. I have no idea.
I think for me, something I did like about this album is that it's pointing to. I do think rock production has improved from where it went wrong.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Little
there's moments on this album where I thought, oh, that actually almost recaptured like a section of something that could have come out late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Which is, as you and I are both very strong proponents of, the early 90s hard rock mix is the best hard rock mix.
But not only that, Skid Row is a really great example of 3 albums in a row with 3 different kinds of production styles that nail it. They nail it in all 3 ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's another reason when we get to their first 3 albums, I'll talk about how, because I love bands that do that. That give you like, here's this one flavor of us. Now we've kind of moved a little bit forward, and the production is as needed. And then once again, we've done the same thing. It's great. It's just one of those things as a fan and as a listener, I just really, really enjoy and appreciate. For what they were trying to do for the Gangs All Here, they succeeded. They don't need me. So, it's fine. I have my opinions. To be fair, I don't really like the stuff that Sebastian Bach does on his own a lot of the time. He has some songs here and there that I really like. But at the end of the day, I just prefer hearing him sing. So that's what helps.
Okay, so
he's a savage animal. I love him.
He's a savage animal.
It rolls off my tongue. All right.
Okay, right. My number 5 is Revolutions Per Minute from 2005. 2006.
19,005.
First released on a wax cylinder. Okay, so this one is generally, from what I've seen, regarded as the bottom. However, to me, this at least felt a little bit less shameless. In terms of just being like, the previous album was a little bit like, we're trying to blend in with the grunge, post-grungy sort of vibe going on, kind of like hard alternative rock sort of thing. This one is like, nah, fuck it. We're gonna put out a bunch of different sounding songs. And I like that. I think variety is the spice of life. And so with that, I'm gonna jump right in. Disease is a grooving hard rock opener. Another dick in the system, and feels like a callback to the dick skin thing, even though I'm sure that was unintentional, being as we invented it 20 years later.
I'm sure nobody's called that album Dick Skin before us.
Oh yeah,
Nah, I'm sure people have.
Nah. We were the first. We're the first on record, surely.
Yeah, it started here.
Yeah. You heard it here first. But yeah, another dick in the system. It's like this punky hard rocker. There's a couple of fucking wordy titles on this album, like Pulling My Heart Out From Under Me, where it's like, that,
why is your heart under you?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? So, see, there was a worry for me that was like, oh god, I read that and it was like, this is gonna sound like a fucking Fall Out Boy song, and then it was like, the whole,
that does sound like a Fall Out Boy title.
Yeah, it's like, that mid 2000s overly long emo song titles where it was like, hey, I'm sorry that I dumped you at the drive-in, do you want a smoothie? Like, just shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, God Can Wait gives off kind of Green Day vibe. Sorry, what were you saying?
I don't know. No, it's just God, this is me derailing us again. I think I've mentioned this. I've mentioned this on another episode, but it's not related at all, except for it's a long title, but it's my favorite long title of a song I've ever heard in my entire life. And this was from a punk band I saw in the late 90s. And what was the band called? I think they were called Beefcake. I think that was the name of the band. They weren't very big. They were just a band that came on tour opening for some other band.
It's a good name.
But one of their song titles was "I've never fucked a 10, but one night I fucked 5 2s."
That's incredible.
And I gotta go find that someday, because like I just remember it was just a fast punk song where I think they really only sang the title over and over again. But I was just like, I was so laughing hysterically at the title of the song that I was just like, that is genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is
anyway,
incredible.
Okay. Back on track.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, God Can Wait has kind of a Green Day vibe. Shut Up Baby I Love You has a cool riff to it. Strength is a melodic song. White Trash has, some fun lyrics, they're not clever, they're just, funny,
Yeah.
It's like a much less subtle punk version of RV by Faith No More. You Lie. I'm assuming that this is your favorite track of the whole catalog with its country style. So
Absolutely. This didn't take me out of the album at all.
Really? So yeah, you get Nothing, which is this anthemic style rocker. Love Is Dead is punky number. And then like right at the end of the album, there's another version of You Lie.
Because they needed 2 of that, I guess.
But yeah, it's an album, and it's got some fun stuff on it. But is it what I'd go to Skid Row for?
Yeah,
the answer to that one is no. So that is my number 5.
Sweet. My number 5 is Dick Skin from 2003. I mean, Thick Skin. Their 4th album, and first with Johnny Solinger, sounding like a cross between Baz and Rob Thomas on this album, just on certain songs. He's got a really good voice, and I honestly think that for the most part, he seems like he's trying to kind of do his own thing, because he's a similar vocalist, and that's fine. But he never did anything that really annoyed me vocally. Like I was just like, he's fine. It's okay. I heard for a little while. Am I wrong that for a little while the singer of Dragon Force was the singer of Skid Row? He didn't do any recordings. The original singer of Dragon Force.
Let's have a quick check, because I've got the member timeline up.
Because I think they did those 2 EPs, and then I think I remember reading that the Dragon Force guy was supposed to be their vocalist, and then all of a sudden he wasn't in the group, and they got this new dude. But anyway,
what do we got here? Tony Harnell.
Here's where we go to the internet. No, I don't think that's not his name. Tony Harnell.
Tony.
Honey Hornay is her name.
Oh no, he's the dude from TNT. We need, what is it? ZP Theart? Is it?
That sounds right.
Or ZP Theart, South African singer. Yeah, he's the guy. Yeah.
Okay. But he wasn't in there very long.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What?
That would have been interesting, because that's a totally different kind of vocalist. Like he can hit some high notes, but he doesn't sound like Sebastian Bach, and maybe that would have been a good thing. I don't know. But anyway, back to Thick Skin. I don't honestly, none of their albums has a production style that really bothered me that much. Like Thick Skin sounds for the time relatively good for those kind of, not big major label production albums. And I think that
in stark contrast to Hollyweird.
Yeah. I just think that it's got good performances on it and some good songs. But it really does, like you made the point, there's some of that trying to fit in with what was going on at the time, but really a lot of that stuff had already kind of come and gone. And so it sounds like a band that are very unsure of what they want to do, and we're just kind of hearing that on an album. And it's almost just like, well, we'll just throw everything out there. We wrote some songs that sound like they could be alternative rock songs. Let's throw those out there. We have some hard rockers in case that's what wins, and we'll throw those out there as well. And the hard rock songs feel more natural, obviously, because they're Skid Row. The other ones have a very Hey Fellow Kids kind of vibe going on.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a pretty bland album. But I think the only reason and that I put it above The Gang's All Here is because I feel more of an effort in the songwriting. Whereas I feel like there was actual songwriting and not just trying to make things that sounded like a certain thing of an era. I don't really like it. You know, I'm not going to listen to Thick Skin again. And I Remember You Too is fucking stupid. But it's got some enjoyable moments here and there, but it really is like, it sounds like Skid Row in 2003. It sounds like a lot of bands like Skid Row in 2003, where they're just kind of like figuring out what the fuck to do. And
yeah,
I feel for those bands because, like, what the fuck would I do? Because, you know, unfortunately, I was the kind of musician where none of my bands ever took off, and everything was always shit. But what if I had been in a band that had had some success, especially on the level of Skid Row, and then all of a sudden it's a new millennium, and you're just like, nobody likes the music that we used to do anymore. It's like a joke to a lot of people. What the fuck do we do? And if you're like, you know, well, do we start another band? Fuck no. We worked too hard to do Skid Row. Why would we change? You know, and so like, I feel like I would be one of those bands that was still just sticking it out. Like, hey, let's just give it a shot. Let's throw something at the wall and see what happens. But no matter what we do, let's keep our name out there because we're bothering to do the work. You know, we bothered to find a new vocalist. We bothered to put together these songs. Let's just keep it going. So I give them props for that. But I don't. Thick Skin's just not a very good album. Yeah. Number 4.
Cool. Okay, so my number 4 is the most recent album, The Gang's All Here.
Okay.
And this album, to me, I definitely hear what you're saying. There are some moments where I do think, you know, oh, this is your standard built for the modern rock live show kind of layout, you know, whoa-who's in the right places and whatnot. You know, there are some pretty stock. I think it's fucking stock.
That is a really good use of that term, Lars. Stock is what a lot of this album sounds like.
There are a lot of I would say, as far as production goes, I think that it's produced really well. I think it sounds good. Sonically, I like it better than the 2 albums that precede it.
Yeah.
However, you know, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Like, there's moments that really grip me, and there's moments that are like, also has the Hey Fellow Kids vibe. Yeah. So I'm kind of conflicted on it, where it's like, you know, Hell or High Water, Slave, like I got a Slave to the Grind vibe right out of the gate. Like, I really like that song. And then The Gang's All Here, you know, is a title track and a bit of a statement of intent. But
we had a conversation before, speaking of Hell or High Water. I think we've had this on numerous episodes where we talk about bands overusing song titles that 50 other bands have already used before them. And that alone shows the amount of care they took in these songs. There's like, call it Hell or High Water. Aren't there like 20 songs? It doesn't matter. Hell or High Water.
I was going to say, go, right. I'm going to read the tracks and you're going to go ding if you can think of another band doing one of these songs.
So Hell or High Water, I can think of 2, Poison and Kiss, but I know there's been more.
Come Hell or High Water.
Yeah.
The Gang's All Here. That at least is kind of original.
But that comes from something. That's a what do you call it?
Yeah.
A phrase that was coined in something. I don't know. Anyway.
Which, isn't as egregious, it's
Nah, it's just a lame album title, but other than that, it's fine.
Not Dead Yet.
Yeah. Not Dead. There's a lot of those. I can't think of one right now, but there's Not Dead Yet.
I'm actually gonna go on my phone and see if I can. Okay, finding songs. Not Dead Yet. Okay, I don't have any saved that go Not Dead Yet. Let's go. Time Bomb. There's got to be some called Time Bomb. I've got it written down as Tomb Bomb because autocorrect is a bastard lately.
Not Dead Yet, Lord Huron. That's not in my music. That just look. Yeah, it brings up a lot of about not dead yet songs from different artists.
Yeah. Well, I've got mine.
Time Bomb. It's Rancid did a song called Time Bomb.
Yeah. Resurrected.
Black shirt, white shoes, black hat, Cadillac. Yeah, the boys at Time Bomb. All right.
I was gonna say we don't even need to search up Resurrected like that. That's
shit.
Who hasn't done a song that has resurrection or resurrected or some variation?
Some kind of erection.
Yeah. When the lights come on, I can think of some when the lights go down. Tear It Down is.
Oh my God, Def Leppard.
Yeah. October's song, I'll admit. Okay.
It's probably a 90s female artist that has that song title.
World on Fire. I mean, that's it. Again, it's another kind of, it just gives Done to Death vibes. However, I will say, I feel like of all the parts of the production that I feel like they got bang on is the vocals. I think, while the vocals may not have the character of Baz, they're produced exactly how I would want to hear this style of vocal. There's the exact right amount of delay and reverb on it that makes it sound fucking huge. But yeah, going back to Time Bomb though, it's designed for the live set. It's to an almost cheesy extent. The riffs are kind of chunky, but again, it's that thing of on this album to me doesn't sound like it's poorly done sonically, but it also has this element of you stack it next to Skid Row, Slave to the Grind, and Subhuman Race, and it just becomes a case of it's almost apples and oranges at that point. It definitely feels a bit more, watered down, middle of the road.
That's why I said Diet Skid Row. It's all. It's just like, I'm too old to be drinking the full-on soda pop anymore, so I'm going to drink the 0-calorie Skid Row, and it tastes okay. But you know what? I'm so old now that it doesn't matter. I'm going to enjoy this 0-calorie Skid Row, and I'm going to tell everybody how much I enjoy it.
Netflix used to come in the mail. But yeah, Resurrected. I love that the kind of Sunset Strip riffage is back in full force. The performances on here are great.
Yeah, they're a great band. There's no denying that.
But it definitely, to me, this album as a whole, it's very upbeat track 2. Tear It Down has good gang vocals on it. October Song's the big old ballad. I didn't realize until just now. World on Fire. I meant to write ass kicking closer. It autocorrected to ass licking closer. So far we've got dick skin and ass licking as little. Yeah, this is an X-rated episode.
Which ones aren't?
Top Shelf, XXX.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, I liked it more than Thick Skin and Revolutions, but it's still not that holy trinity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
I think before I get to my number 4, I want to just mention the 2 EPs that they did, because we're not talking about them, but they would probably fall somewhere around here because they're still not great but they got a good energy, I guess. But the songwriting's just not very good. And like, if we ranked them, it would just be another one that we were saying pretty much the same shit about.
Yeah.
So just assume that somewhere in this lower half is those two EPs they did.
That's our 3.5s.
Yeah. But my number four is Revolutions Per Minute from 2006. I like the sound of this album. I think it has a really good energy, and I actually had a lot of fun in some of the tracks on this album.
Same.
There's some enjoyable songs, some are big skippers, but it feels like more, like you said, like it feels like more of them just saying fuck it, just let's do what comes naturally to us as Skid Row, and then that's what the album is. Unfortunately for this album, about halfway through the album, there's a fucking country song that is unnecessary, and it completely kills the album to the point where all of the songs following it are just completely ignorable to me. Where I'm just like, look, you already fucked this album, and then they're just like they knew I was listening to it, and they're like, fuck you, Steven. We're gonna put that song again at the end of it.
You thought it was over.
Yeah. Absolute bullshit, but it's got some good songs on it. I like the way it sounds, but I think it's Michael Wagner that produced this, who did their first album, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, and so I think he came back and did this album, and so it's not amazing sounding, but it's got for 2006, it's not bad. And this to me, so this album to me is just barely better than Thick Skin. Probably just because I had a better time listening to it. And
Agreed.
That's really it. So that wraps up the bottom half. And like I said, to me, there's a huge space between the numbers here. Because these top three albums, I have gripes about all three because none of them are perfect albums to me.
Okay.
But there's something about these albums that they have never lost their charm and energy for me, no matter how many times I've heard them. Anyone plays a song from any one of these three albums, I'm always like, it's fucking good. It's never gone away. Never gone away. So we're on to our top three. We might match up. We also might not. I think we might match up on our number three. So let's.
I definitely think this could well be a triple matchup.
Okay. Let's find out after this. And we're back.
Yeah.
I have no idea what just happened. That was. You look like. Have you seen those like things where it's like AI created a commercial with humans in it? It's like whoa! They have arms coming out of their faces and shit. That is like the best thing in the world. So much so that I watch those and I go, if these had come out like in like the 80s or 90s, this would be like art films. Like, did you see these amazing art films where the people are just fucking chaotic and there's arms coming out of their faces? I love it.
I today, just before we started, there is a video on YouTube. You know this like thing where all of a sudden you're able to overlay other people's voices onto songs.
Yeah.
Which is A, fucking frightening, right? And B, hilarious because someone has done Man in the Box by Alice in Chains, but they've taken the voices of Plankton and Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
I saw a Tool one with, I think, one of the SpongeBob characters singing on it.
I'm gonna send it over to you now while it's on my mind. But if you type in like Sheldon J. Plankton Man in the Box AI cover, it's got Plankton doing Lane's parts and Mr. Krabs doing Jerry's parts. So when it gets to the chorus, it could be a contender for best meme I have ever seen in my entire life.
That's awesome.
I wasn't expecting Mr. Krabs to show up, and when he did,
Yeah.
oh boy, that was a. I don't want to say top 10 moments of my life, but maybe top 15.
I just want to know, like, because I'm so weary of the internet when it comes to things that I don't already know what they are. If anyone out there knows, like, is there a cool website that I could easily just go to and generate some weird shit? Because like I like that, even if it's just an image, I like that those things where you just type in a bunch of descriptive words and then it creates an image for you or a video or whatever. I would love to know where to go do that just for my own amusement. Just,
There's one called Crayon, spelled Craiyon.
Okay.
And that was a big meme kicking off around earlier this year.
Okay, as long as I'm not gonna get a virus from it, then I'm all
you won't. Nah, you won't get a virus from it. Watch this clip. Like age horribly. You won't get a virus from it. Redacted. Yeah. I just remember like what's the first thing I ever typed into it? I think I typed in D. Snyder in GTA San Andreas, and it had him as a pedestrian walking through like pretty much a very close recreation of like the whole environment looked like San Andreas, the game. It's wild.
Whenever it gets to the point where it gets really easy to generate videos, we should do a ranking where we just let AI make the ranking for us. Cranked and ranked ranking of whoever. Somebody we really can't be fucked to do. And then we just enter it in, and it's just an AI hour and a half long episode where we have arms coming out of our faces for the whole time.
Your little tattoo just starts running all of a sudden.
Anyway, all right. So we're on the top three. Let's keep this shit moving.
Okay.
What is your number three?
My number three is, this is where we're going to find out if we matched up. Subhuman Race.
That's also my number three. Subhuman Race.
Okay, so this is the third in the original run.
Mm-hmm. The Baz trilogy.
Yes, and the last of the three. They've definitely stripped back. There's not really any trace of the debut on this album. It's very much like Slave to the Grind is like a mixture of the debut and this one.
Yeah.
This one leans right into being stripped back, grungy, heavy, groovy, just pretty much just straight up metal,
Yeah. And they made a very smart choice by choosing Bob Rock as their producer, because
this is a Bob Rock one.
It is.
Shit, it makes sense.
It sounds fantastic because he's a guy that if you come to him and say, hey, we want to do more of a straightforward where we don't have all the reverb and all this shit and we want to be heavy, Bob Rock can do that shit too. And he fucking nails it on this album.
How many albums has he done now? Like
a lot. He did a lot. He did a whole shitload back in the day. But he still does them now for random artists, I think.
Damn, dude. Wow. Like sometimes I forget how insane some producers' lives are. Like you look at the fucking resume here, it's ridiculous. I
mean, not only that, like early on he was working on big albums when he was pretty much just an engineer and not necessarily a producer. I mean, he worked on Slippery When Wet. Like he was like, and on that one. So I mean, that's
when he used to be a woman.
Yeah.
I love that line in Year and a Half in the Life. That's great.
Yeah, I just like when they're looking at his band and they're like, "This guy told you what to do."
That girly looking dude. Oh man. Is there a more maybe some kind of monster? I was gonna say, is there a more quotable set of band documentaries than those?
No, not. I mean, there might be, but like when you're talking about Year and a Half, year and a half, but that's a mockumentary. But Year and a Half is my favorite thing ever made. Like that's that is my comfort thing. Like if I'm ever having a bad day, I just watch that. Like that always puts me in a better mood. So
Absolutely. Man, I wish I could have been there. But yeah, it's Subhuman Race. So my enemy, that riff fucking rules right out of the gate. You already know that it sets you up for this is going to be different, but it's going to fucking rule.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe. Fire Sign has an almost Saigon Kick type feel. And
I like that one.
We love Saigon Kick.
We do, indeed.
It's Bonehead. The grit in Sebastian's voice is insane, especially when he gets growly on this.
I will go on record and say this is his best performance on this. Even though he's not doing the higher notes like as often as he used to do, his like he does not phone shit in. His vocal performance is always so good. Even on parts that maybe aren't as interesting vocally, he will find a way to put some sort of personality into it, and I just love it. He's so I'm a fan of his. So
he knows how to sell it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That boy can sing. All right,
that boy's good.
Sexual chocolate.
Say, my band, they're so lovely. Would you agree? Beat Yourself Blind, groovy ass shit. Eileen has a cool grungy feel to it, but in a way where it feels authentic, not like it's trying to fit in. That it's almost like they've absorbed it rather than it's absorbmed them.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Catch me.
Honestly, I've never listened to this album and thought the word grunge ever. Like, to me, it always seemed just like hard rock made in 1995. Because I don't know. There's something about it that doesn't quite make it tick the grunge box for me. But it's different ears.
I suppose I would equate it to, because I have a habit of thinking of grunge and alternative metal as the same era. There's a lot of crossover to it. Like
I think also I kind of equate it with around the same time another Bob Rock produced album, the self-titled Motley Crue album.
Yes,
that one to me has parts where I feel that there's some attempt to be a little grungy. And this one, for some reason, has never hit me that way.
Again, it's like, but then again, I've got here like Remains to Be Seen. A lot of the riffs on this album made me think of grunge rock, like that kind of riff driven.
I guess the more metallic, grungy dudes. I guess like there could be a line drawn there.
Yeah, that's kind of sorry. Nah, I'm not gonna sneeze. Sorry, that went back up into my brain and it hurts like hell, but I'm all right. This eye flies out. Subhuman Race, pounding title track.
Yeah.
Frozen. Someone's been listening to Jerry Cantrell. Into Another is a vibey track. Face Against My Soul is cool. Medicine Jar has chunky riffage going on, breaking down, low-key ballady track, and Iron Will is a grooving closer. All in all, this is fantastic stuff. Like they're one of those bands of the hair metal era that survived a bit longer. If you you know where I'm coming from, it's like they weren't one of the ones that didn't know how to adapt and just got swallowed.
Plus, even though this album wasn't successful for them, I feel like it's respected in a way that other bands mid 90s output is not. And like I said earlier, I like the fact that they have their first 3 albums and it's 3. It's a clear progression. You can clearly hear they're getting better at writing songs, getting better at performing. And then you've got these 3 different styles of production. This one is way more drier and heavier and in your face and beefy. It's a beefy production with a lot of low end, and I love that. And I think it's a fucking amazing album. It has no bad tracks on it, but I will say, and I'd say this about, I'll say this about another album as well, but there are songs that are a bit too samey. Like they have a similar vibe,
Yeah.
and it almost makes me feel like, hey, let's cut this album down to 40 minutes and get rid of a few of those. That being said, I don't know which ones I would get rid of. If I was taking two songs and putting them next to each other, like which one would be the one that went? And at this point, you're making an album, you're paying money for it, you recorded these songs, you can fit them all on a CD, just put them all fucking out, I guess.
That's just kind of a symptom of its era, really, isn't it?
Sure. But I don't think there's any bad tracks on here. Really, the only thing I can say for sure is that compared to the first two albums, this one doesn't have quite the standout tracks. Like if somebody says Subhuman Race, you don't immediately think, oh, that fucking song. It's just more of a overall, the album is fucking great. Whereas Slave and the self-titled album, there are songs that immediately spring to mind when you think of those albums. Maybe that's a testament to Subhuman Race being really good, that it's just a cohesive album and collection of songs that there is nothing that really stands out because everything is pretty strong. I love it. I think it's great. Sounds great. It's a killer album. Everyone sounds great on it. Unfortunately, the last with Sebastian Bach. But, I mean, when it comes to the Skid Row output, I think he went out on a high note because I think he just sounds amazing on this album. But the real question is, this is the moment of truth. It's the moment of truth. It's out on a line. This is a place. This is a time. Waiting forever. It's now or it's never. Whatever. And Karate Kid fucking rules. The soundtrack rules too.
I'm bust into some fucking training montage any second.
So the moment of truth is that we'll find out right now if our entire bottom three is going to match up
after this. I gotta really quickly run and get a tissue. The hay fever, the pollen has breached the quarantine.
All right.
Stole him.
So how's everybody doing? Good? Cool. How was your weekend? Awesome. Yeah, cool. And the weather is weather-ish, cool too, like hot, middle, whatever.
Sorry.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm back from my training montage.
I was just having a little discussion with everybody out there about their weekend and how the weather is and everything. We were catching up.
I mean, it's all right.
All right, so now bottom two, top two. Let's find out. What's your number two, and we'll see if we match up.
Okay, my number two is 1989's self-titled debut, Skid Row.
Yep, we have an identical top three. My number two is also Skid Row from 1989.
Absolutely. And it's funny to me that, of course, if a band comes out of the gate and is mostly known for doing a certain style of music, like a sizable chunk of this discography is not this,
Yeah.
But this is what they broke out of the gate with, and it's some of the best quote unquote 80s glam metal goodness ever put to tape.
I mean, I think a lot of people have figured out, when you have a big hit ballad, it pretty much just screws you for the rest of your life. It's just like, that's what you're known for, a big hit ballad.
And these motherfuckers had two on one album too.
Yeah.
Alongside another absolute banger.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna dive right in. Big Guns, excellent opening blast of
funnily enough, not actually about guns.
Wow. I was not aware of that.
It's big uns.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
He likes his women thick.
Whoever wrote that song, I'm on board with him.
Yeah.
So.
or, or he just likes large jugs. But yeah, Sweet Little Sister, another blast of hair metal goodness. What's that? You want more? Then have Can't Stand the Heartache, because that's another one. And they're all these are all just bangers. Piece of Me, man. See, this is the thing. This is one of those bands of the era that can give me the riff face. This isn't generally it's not a riff face genre, but like that 18 and Life is the darker, edgier power ballad of the album. You know, I will hand it to Skid Row. You know, I know I Remember You is a love song, right?
Yeah.
But like a lot of their ballads are about dark shit. I mean, this is about a kid shooting his friend, you know, in an argument and facing jail for the rest of his life. And then, of course, on Slave to the Grind, you get in a darkened room, which is about child abuse. I mean, that's a heavy fucking subject to write a successful song about. Yeah. But here we go. Here's something that always made me laugh. Rattlesnake Shake, not to be confused with the Motley Crue song, which was released in the same year. Yeah. Like there's two, you get like a 2-for-1 deal. It was the
year of the hand job. Not actually about a rattlesnake.
Oh man, Rattlesnake Shake. I mean, wow. There's no subtlety, is there, in the genre? It's like, yeah, is that a dance or nope, she's whacking me off. Youth Gone Wild, absolute anthem. Got to be a top 10 song of 1989 for me.
Yeah.
Here I Am is a kind of funky track. Like it's got that
beat we talked about on another episode. It's
the Mr. Brownstone vibe.
Or Rocket Queen.
Yeah. There needs to be more of that beat brought back. See,
that's what they're missing on the that's what they're missing on the Gangs All Here. There's no Rocket Queen beat on there.
Yeah. We need more Rocket Queen beat. Making a Mess, great deep cut. Love this song. Always thought it was like it's one of my favorite deep cuts of the genre. I Remember You is the upbeat power ballad of the album. It's 1989 after all, and it's also a great song. This is the good version of the song. And then Midnight / Tornado. Badass closing song, followed by a little bonus nugget at the end. I fucking love Midnight. Midnight's such a great song. Was that a single? If not, it should have been.
No, I don't think so. I think they just had 3 singles off this.
I mean, you could
3 music videos anyway. Youth Gone Wild, 18 in Life, and I Remember You were the only music videos. Oh no, Piece of Me was a video also.
Yeah. Is that the one where he's got those like really long fingernails on, like the really sparkly ones? Or am I fucking high?
That doesn't ring a bell, but maybe I just missed that.
I need to see this. Piece of Me, Skid Row. I just want to see this real quick.
I think it's it's live footage. Is the Piece of Me video?
Yeah, but I just remember I'm remembering something about long fingernails. Where is it?
Maybe somebody out there, you can comment below or email me at oldheadpodcast@gmail.com.
Where is it? I need an answer to this question.
Skid Row, Sebastian Bach, long fingernails, and go.
I must be fucking hallucinating that shit. For some reason, I remember like a long fingernailed hand like gripping the mic stand in the intro to that song. I don't know.
Wow, no, that doesn't ring a bell at all.
I might be thinking of a completely different band in the same style. Yeah.
Could be. Somebody will know. Somebody will know the answer.
Yeah.
But yes, we matched up with Skid Row, the debut album. I just love.
Nice.
I love that this is like a go-to for that big '80s rock sound for me. If I just want to have a hard rock album where I have a good time because it's fun, it's energetic, it's catchy, it's got classic tracks on it. Um,
And it's got that like late 80s, they figured it out to where it sounds big and it doesn't sound mushy.
it's
Like,
the post Guns N' Roses thing,
yeah.
really. But yeah, it sounds great. Honestly, this one go. I love this album, but it goes at number two because as much as I like the '80s vibe from this album, there are a couple songs that sound too much like average songs for the time that
Mm.
other bands prior to them had kind of already done before. So while they're done really well, and I like all of them, but I was just thinking about like comparing this album and Slave to the Grind and like what they were doing on Slave to the Grind. I was like, that felt a little more original.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can tell the scene they were coming out of, and they were really fucking good at what they did, and they wrote some absolute bangers. But there's a little bit of that. All right, that sounds like an '80s hard rock song that anybody
Yeah.
could have done, but sung by the fantastic Sebastian Bach, the savage animal Sebastian Bach. That leads us to our joint number one, which is probably most people's number one, "Slave to the Grind" from 1991, and this album's a big deal over here in America because in 1991, so
The number
prior to
one album, wasn't it?
but not only that, prior to 1991, the way that Billboard and all these other publications would get the charts for what the top selling albums were is they would essentially call a record store and say, "Hey, what have been the numbers for these albums?" And the person on the phone would say, "Number one has been Paula Abdul by with a million copies," or whatever. But there was no way to check that. So clearly, in some cases, there was payola. There was money being sent to these people to be like, when they call,
Yeah.
you say this album is number one. So there was a lot of fudging the numbers. Like shit was popular, but there was some albums that you could tell that they put money behind it to give it a little more of a push. 1991, they started doing the Nielsen Sound Scan, which was essentially the barcode of an album was scanned when it was sold. That's the data that went towards the charts.
Yeah.
And the very first album of that era to go number one was Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. So it was
Wow.
legitimately the number one purchased album in America when it came out. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I always remember, I even remember back in the day, like seeing those reports of like this is what people are actually buying. They're actually buying Slave to the Grind. I'm like, well, of course they are. But I mean, it was short lived because Slave to the Grind. I really want to know like what the release date of Slave to the Grind was. I'm going to look it up real quick.
Cool.
So you keep them occupied while I go.
Well, I'm going to look up the release date of Nevermind, which was
That was
September
August.
tw-
September.
September 24th, 1991.
Okay.
Released on the same day as Blood Sugar Sex Magic and Bad Motorfinger.
So Slave to the Grind was released on June 11th. So there was a few months of like hard rock is on top, and then Nirvana came out, and it wasn't overnight like everybody likes to say.
Yeah.
But for somebody who was around at the time, like I bought Nevermind pretty quickly after seeing Smells Like Teen Spirit, and very quickly was like, oh, this is the kind of shit I'd like to be listening to. So it for some of us it did happen kind of fast, but I don't think it really started going to MTV and all these other things until their album moved up the charts and then became a big deal, because at first it didn't. But Slave to the Grind at that point, it was pretty interesting just to be like, wow, like this music that I'm listening to is like the most popular music in the country, and that's something that will probably never happen again. But that's fine. Anyway.
Let's hold out hope. There might be some young hungry band out there willing to be the next.
It's good. Yeah.
Sage.
It's gonna be Sage.
It's gonna be fucking Sage. We got a single out called "Sick" on Spotify. Yeah.
The link is in the video description. There's a link to it.
Yeah, if you wanna check it out, it's on all the streaming platforms. You know. Okay, now that my shameless plug is out of the way, let's talk about Slave to the Grind.
Slave to the Grind. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we got Monkey Business, not to be confused with the Monkey Business by Danger Danger, released the same year. Significantly heavier song than Danger Danger's Monkey Business.
Yeah. Also a really great album opener. Just because I love how it's kind of a fake out with the beginning.
Outside my window, there's
But then once it kicks in and it's like I can't even begin to try to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, the new singer for Skid Row, once that new guy gets kicked out, it will be Eddie Sparxx.
I just love like the cowbell in that song.
Yeah.
Just unrelenting smacking of the cowbell. Chef's kiss. One of the Eddie Sparxx secret ingredients to perfection. So yeah, we got Monkey Business. That song hands down makes this the best album, let alone the rest of the fucking album.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. Were you aware that Slave to the Grind, the song, is the demo version?
Yes.
Because the demo was so good and they named the album after it, they didn't even bother re-recording it because the energy, they couldn't recapture the energy of that demo well enough in the studio. So they were like, oh, fuck it, stick the demo version on.
I mean, the way it's all mixed and mastered, you can't even fucking tell. It sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know until it was brought up. You know, now I notice that sonically it is ever so slightly different, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
Not to the point where it takes you out of the experience whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get The Threat, which is the third ass kicker in a row.
Yeah.
And then you get one of the 3 ballads on this album, which is funny because, like, I always equate this album to, like, kicking up the heaviness significantly, but it has more ballads on it than the debut.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like, so the heavy songs are heavier, but the ballads are darker. So it's like an overall thing. It's a shift to a more, a little bit more of a mature Skid Row on this one.
Yeah. And Quicksand Jesus, it's probably my least favorite of those 3, but it's still really good. Mm-hmm. Psycho Love is fucking rad. Now, here's something that had me a little bit confused. Some versions have Beggar's Day, and some versions have Get the Fuck Out. I'm assuming Beggar's Day would have been like the retail version. And
yeah, the Walmart wouldn't sell it, and so they had a censored version that just replaced the 2 songs. Yeah. I mean, they're both good songs. I don't have a problem with either one of them. But I know the album as having Get the Fuck Out right there.
Absolutely. I'm the same. Although Beggar's Day is really good too. Living on a Chain Gang.
I want to point something out. This is a little taste into what I like about Sebastian Bach is and I don't know if these were his choices because like I don't think he didn't write the lyrics as far as I know. But he always had cool things he would do in the deliveries. And I just like the fact that in Get the Fuck Out, in the chorus, when it drops out, he, instead of like doing some kind of big yell or something else, he does the "Get the fuck out," like he does that. Yeah. And I was always like, that's why I love him, because he does things like that, where it's a little bit of his personality, just like coming into the lyrics, and he does things like that, where whether or not it's a sound that he makes in between lyrics or just a way of doing a particular line. He just does things in this way that is 100% Sebastian Bach, and I love it.
It's almost kind of Dave Mustaine, that part, isn't it? It's like, fuck out.
Watching me come again.
That's what Metallica said to him.
Get the fuck out.
Shit. Love you, Dave. No, I don't mean any disrespect.
I mean, Dave, I love half of the music that you did.
Anyway, so we got Living on a Chain Gang, which is also fucking rad.
Mm-hmm.
Creepshow's got a funky edge to it. In a Darkened Room is a heart-wrenching power ballad about child abuse, which, I'm not even going to try to make a funny here. It's just a sad song.
Yeah.
Really good song.
Yep.
Riot Act, probably the punkiest track on the album. And I remember playing along to it on my friend's bass because I figured out that because like the notes are E, A, D, you could play it with like just open strings. I didn't even need like a hand over here, so I just spent the entire song going ding 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 ding. I just realized you couldn't really see it. But yeah,
he was making the metal horns with one hand while stroking his bass with the other one. Doing the rattlesnake shake with the other hand.
Classic. Now here we go. You get Mud Kicker, which is one of my favorite deep cuts.
It's a great one.
Heavy as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, God, the riffage in this song kills. Super heavy. And Wasted Time is my favorite power ballad from Skid Row. I love the way it closes. I love the way it closes the album out. There's a lot of really
also
cool,
a very interesting
changes.
Closer. It's like it's not what you would necessarily imagine as an album closer, but it works really well.
There's some cool like key changes in it. Shifts to a major from a minor, and there's a lot of it's a really composed song. There's a lot of different parts in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things that we mentioned earlier that as well, while it's on my mind, how we mentioned like a decade stylistically might not be over until a few years into the next. One of the greatest albums of the whole 80s metal era, showing that hard rock still had a lot to say in the early 90s before MTV latched onto grunge as the next big thing.
I really feel that Slave to the Grind does feel like a step into the 90s though. Like that's the thing is
it's like a bridge.
It really does like feel like transitional. And obviously I don't think the band knew what was going to be happening, but I think they did know that a lot of people wanted heavier stuff because being a young person around that time, like that's what I was listening to. I was listening to heavier stuff.
And I think they themselves wanted that too. I think they got their foot in the door being a glam band to start out with, for want of a better word, and then went, okay, we got a backlog of heavy shit. Time to drop that on them. See what they think. Yeah,
I mean there's like on a Headbangers Ball episode when they're doing like a tour update for Skid Row. It's Sebastian Bach in a hotel room blasting Slayer. And so clearly, like, they were into heavier shit and it just kind of came through in their music.
Yeah. So that is wrapped up beautifully with a matching top 3.
Yeah.
Is our Skid Row ranking?
I haven't said anything about this album.
I do apologize.
I have said quite a bit. I don't really have very much to add.
Sorry, it just felt so natural.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, this album's fucking great. I've already said it before. It's like a more mature Skid Row album, but still having that hard rock energy. Does feel like sort of a step into the new decade or whatever. Production's great. Honestly, like this is another one where while I like all the songs, this could have been a shorter album. They could have cut out some similar tracks. But once again, I don't know which tracks those would have been because they're all good. So really it's just the fact that it's long. And I've gotten so to the point now where when I sit down, like if I'm sitting down in my room on a weekend and I spin some records, I always will avoid ones that are very long. because I'm just like, I play this thing, it's an hour and a half of my time, and I'm just like, I've got to fucking turn shit over 4 times or whatever, it's like, it's a lot. So really
that's like, sorry, I was just gonna say, it's like when I go to listen to And Justice for All, it's like 2 songs per side. It's like, God damn it. Like, I love this fucking album.
I'm okay with that one.
My favorite. Yeah, this is my favorite way to enjoy it, but fuck. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
Any Metallica album will get my time, but that's just me. I'm biased. But yeah, Slave to the Grind, great album. Our matching top 3, pretty great. Yeah, clearly I don't like anything they've done since Sebastian Bach was kicked out of the band or whatever. And also there's no guarantee that if for some reason all the stars aligned and they got back together, they could end up putting out an album and I could be like, this isn't very good. Because I'm not one of those people that's just going to try really hard to like something. I'm going to be like, what is this? Is this actually good? Or or do I want it to be really good? Which I deal with in a lot of ways with a lot of my favorite bands. There's albums where I have to be like, I got to give it up and say, this is not as good. But I don't know, that probably will never happen, but Sebastian Bach rules. Anyway, so that's it for Skid Row. And as usual, whenever we wrap up a band, we celebrate by doing this. 3, 2, 1. Yeah! We did it!
Sorry, I overshot the note there. You want to do that again?
You were being Sebastian Bach. You should just go.
Yeah, we did it!
There you go. You should just do that every time, and then we can have a weird harmonizing thing where the high vocal and the low vocal.
Yeah.
Just turn this into our own thing. And we've been using it so much that most people probably have no idea where it comes from anyway. So, anyway, all right. That's it. So I don't even remember what we're doing next time we do an episode, but I think we're doing another band and probably another short one. I think another short discography, if I remember right. But fuck, we'll find out when it happens.
We're doing a thrash band, and it's one of the Angel bands.
Oh,
I'm not going to specify which.
Okay, it's the band Angel from the 80s.
I was going to say, this is the best part, right? You ready? It's one of those 80s thrash bands that has Angel as the second word, and the first word starts with a D.
Well, there you go. There you go.
I'm going to leave it up to you guys.
Toss a coin.
Fill in the blanks. Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll be back when we'll be doing some thrashiness, and it'll be fun because I love thrash, and I love all of you guys. Peanut Butter Platypus, you guys are the shit. A lot of you, I get more and more comments from people saying they watch all of our stuff and really enjoy it, and I just keep those coming because that is sometimes I get discouraged because we're on YouTube where there's people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they don't really do anything. And we put a lot of effort into our shit. So I don't know. So I appreciate it that we're not just. It
feels good.
Yeah. And it feels good to not just know that we're just here doing the rattlesnake shake with each other and that you guys are enjoying it too. Maybe you're rattlesnake shaking at home while you're watching us. If that's what you do.
Here's one I made earlier.
that was almost obscene. For the podcast listeners, there was a lewd gesture from Mr. Eddie Sparxx, Mr. Eddie Spunks.
Of Cranked and Wanked fame.
Yeah. All right. On that note, everybody, thank you very much for being here. We'll see you next time. And as usual, I throw it over to Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
Later, dude. This party's over. Get the fuck out.
Yeah.